Okay, this story is called Sody Saleratus, and it comes from the Appalachian Mountains, which is where a lot of the settlers who came to Oklahoma originally came from. So this is a story that the Oklahoma pioneers might have told. They say once upon a time, there's a little old house off in the woods, and in that house there lived a little old man and a little old woman and a little old girl and a little old boy and a little old tame pet squirrel. It was wonderful having that tame pet squirrel in the house, just as tame as a kitten or a puppy. Another wonderful thing about living there was that that little old woman could make the best biscuits. Her biscuits were as light as a cloud. Now, one day, she got ready to make some biscuits. She took down the flour and the sugar and the salt and the lard, and she got the buttermilk out of the cooling box, and then she reached for the baking soda. That's what you need to make the biscuits light and fluffy. She reached for the box of baking soda, but it was awfully light, and she shook it, didn't hear any rattling around inside, and she looked in. She said, "Oh my stars, I'm all out of Sody Saleratus." That's what the pioneers used to call baking soda. They called it Sody Saleratus. She said, "I'm sorry, kids, I can't make biscuits without Sody Saleratus. They would be as heavy and hard as a rock." But the little boy said, "I could go into town and I could get you some Sody Saleratus." She said, "Won't you be scared going through the deep, dark woods all by yourself?" And he said, "Oh, no, I won't be scared. I'll sing a song." So he went through the woods singing, "Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus." You can sing too. "Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus." He came to the little old general store and said, "Hi there, storekeeper. I came in to get a box of Sody Saleratus." And the storekeeper said, "Well, sure, I'll get you some," and reached onto the shelf and got it down for him and said, "Now, I'll just put it in the book, and your grandma can pay me for it when she comes in next time." See, in those days, they didn't have credit cards. So he took the box of Sody Saleratus and he went back along the path. And that little old boy was singing, "Sody, Sody, so." You could sing too. "Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody." But in the woods, there was a big hungry bear. And the bear jumped out and said, "Little boy, I'm hungry and I'm going to eat you and your box of Sody Saleratus." And that bear swallowed him right down. Well, back at the house, there was a little old woman and a little old man, and a little old girl and a squirrel, and they were waiting for him to come back, but he didn't come back. And the little old girl said, "You know what, Grandma, I could go into town and I could try and find him. He maybe forgot we're in a hurry for the biscuits." And Grandma said, "Well, now won't you be scared going through the woods by yourself?" And she said, "No, no, I'll sing a song." So as she went through the woods, she sang, and you can sing with me, "Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus. Hi there, storekeeper. Did my brother come in here?" Storekeeper said, "Well, yes, he did. I saw him." "Did he get the Sody Saleratus?" "Yes, he did." "Then where'd he go? I didn't see him on the path." "Well, I don't know. I guess you better go look for him." So she went back down the path singing, "Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus." Was out of the woods. Step that same, you can do this with me, big hungry bear. And the bear said, "Roar, little girl. I had a little boy, him and his box of Sody Saleratus, but I'm still hungry." And you see, oh yes, recording is still going. "But I'm still hungry, so I'm going to eat you." And whoop, swallowed him right down. Well, back at the house, little old woman, little old man, they waited and waited, and the kids didn't come back. And little old man said, I guess I better go get them. They probably got to playing somewhere and forgot all about it. And so he went down the path singing, Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus. Hi there, storekeeper. Have you seen my grandkids? Storekeeper said, well, yes, sir. They came here one at a time. Did they get the Sody Saleratus? Yes, they did. They did. And no, I don't know where they went. So the old man went back singing. You can sing with me. Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody. Because that same big hungry bear jumped out of the woods and said, "Rawr, old man. I ate a little girl and a little boy and a box of Sody Saleratus, but I'm still hungry and I'm going to eat you." And swallowed him right down. Well, who was left at the house? Yeah, there's the woman and the squirrel. And the woman said, well, I guess when you want something done, you better do it yourself. So she went off through the woods singing, Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus. And she got to the store. Hello there, storekeeper. Have you seen my husband and my grandkids? Storekeeper said, yes, ma'am. They came in one at a time. Did they get the Sody Saleratus? Yes, ma'am, they did. And here, it's in the book. You better pay me. So she paid him for the Sody Saleratus, and then he crossed it off. And she said, but well, now where did they go next? And he said, well, I don't know, ma'am. They just had it out. I guess I better find him. So she went back through the woods. Sody, Sody, Sody Saleratus, Sody. And that same hungry bear jumped out and said, "Roar, old woman, I ate a tough old man and a little girl and a little boy and a box of Sody Saleratus, but I'm still hungry and I'm going to eat you." And well, now who was left at the house? There's nobody left but the squirrel. And the squirrel said, so the squirrel went down the path singing, you can do that too, can't you? Jumped up on the counter. The storekeeper said, yes, they all came in here one at a time. And the squirrel said, yeah, they got the Sody Saleratus, said the storekeeper, but I don't know where they went. So the squirrel had to go back down the path singing, what's that saying? Big, hungry bear jumped out and said, "Roar, little squirrel. I ate an old woman and a tough old man and a little girl and a little boy and a box of Sody Saleratus, but I'm still hungry and I'm going to eat you." But the squirrel ran up a tree. And the bear said, don't you know, bears can climb trees too. And the bear climbed up the tree. And the little squirrel ran out on a skinny branch and jumped up and down, bing, boing, and jumped into the next tree. And the bear said, if you can do that with your little legs, I can do it better with my big legs. And the bear went out on the branch and boom, boom, boom. The branch broke, the bear fell down, split wide open, and out came the old woman, the old man, the little girl, the little boy, and he still had his box of Sody Saleratus, so they all went home. They made the biscuits, and they gave the very first one to the squirrel. And that's the story of Sody Saleratus. Well, of course, that's a sort of a silly story, because not only do we know that bears don't talk, but how could they swallow that many people all in one bite? I mean, one swallow, because it obviously didn't chew because they were okay. So it's a story. But I think it's fun to tell. It's fun to tell by yourself, or it's fun to act it out. Now, if you wanted to act it out, you'd have to think about all the different places in the story. There's the house in the woods, there's the path through the woods, and there's the store. Those are the three places. And you'd have to think about where it starts. It starts in the house, and there's nothing happening except you say where it was and when and the people who were there, including the squirrel. Nothing's happening until they want something, which is Sody Saleratus. So that's when the action starts. How are they going to get some? And the boy volunteered to go into town, but on the way home, you remember that. And then the girl, and then the old man, the grandpa, and then the grandma, and then the squirrel. But at that point, the story got different, because instead of being swallowed by the bear, the squirrel ran up the tree. And then the bear came up the tree. And the squirrel went to a skinny branch, boing, and got away to the next tree. And when the bear tried it, boom, the branch broke, split wide open, which is not what would happen. And out jumped all the people. So they all went home. And they had the Sody Saleratus, so they made the biscuits. And the squirrel got the first one. That's the end of the story. So now you can remember the story and you can act it out. You know the places and the characters, the old man, the old woman, the little girl, the little boy, the squirrel, the bear, the storekeeper, and it's good to have a narrator too. It can be fun to try out for the different parts. You could see roar, who can do the best growling as a bear. You can see who could do the best squirrel. Who can act like the old man and the old woman and the little girl and the little boy. And you don't have to actually be a girl in order to do the girl part, just like you don't have to actually be a bear to do the bear part. But you can act it out. And and when you're acting it out, here are 2 hints that I've learned from doing this with kids a long time. This bear has his or her stomach on the back. So when you get swallowed by the bear, you go around back and hold on to the bear's waist or hold on to the bear's shoulders and attach on. And then the next person who gets swallowed holds on to that one until you got a long line of people all attached, and that does kind of slow the bear down. That's good. Another thing I learned is that in school, you're not allowed to actually climb on the furniture. So you pretend to climb and pretend to bounce over and don't split wide open actually. And that way you can do the story. So I hope you have fun acting out the story, and you can also learn some more about what Sody Saleratus is, baking soda, and why it makes the biscuits light and fluffy and things like that. So I'm going to stop the recording.